Hello there and welcome to our final video in our data security series. In this video we're going to talk about malicious software and hacking. And malicious software is everywhere. People are trying to steal your information and financially benefit from you as a person. So in computer science there's a number of different categories that we can put hackers into, and this comes from the old cowboy westerns. The cowboys wearing the black hats were the baddies, and the cowboys wearing the white hats were the goodies. Now, black hat hackers, being the bad guys, will break into systems for their own purposes. And this could be for their own financial gain, it could be for political motivation, or it could be just to test the skills, or maybe even just for fun. Some hackers like the kudos of breaking into the FBI, for example. But what about these guys in the middle? The grey hat hackers? Well, they're caught between the black and the white, the bad and the good, but they are known as white hat hackers who are not directly hired by a company but perform penetration testing anyway to expose flaws. And the hope here is that they get hired by the company, but more often than not they are prosecuted under the Computer Misuse Act because they weren't hired to break into the system in the first place. And white hat hackers use their skills to break into a system to expose flaws and then advise the company on how they should be fixed. And they'll work directly for the company or be hired by the company to perform penetration testing. So I've mentioned penetration testing a couple of times there, but what actually is penetration testing? Well, it's done by all three types of hackers: the black, the grey and the white. And it involves trying to break into a system by exploring vulnerabilities in the operating system. It could be application flaws, poorly configured systems, and even user behavior, sometimes known as social engineering. And the goal of this testing is to find flaws in the security in order to exploit them or fix them, depending on whom is doing the testing. So let's go through the steps of penetration testing. The first step is all about reconnaissance and making as little noise as possible. Reconnaissance is all about collecting as much public data as possible, and this can include things like the software in use, the names of the employees and the IP addresses. And that could even be down to speaking to the people that work there, taking pictures of them as they leave their workplace, and taking pictures of their lanyards. And gathering IP addresses, well, we can do some packet sniffing and we can see what's coming out of the company itself. And the key here is not to set off any alarm bells by trying to access protected information too early. The second part of penetration testing is all about scanning. So we probe the system defenses in more detail. And here the plan is to scan available ports, find software versions that the company is using, and find out the addresses of all the public computers on the network. And once we've got that information, then we can create a blueprint of the target. And once the information is gathered, it's then time to look for the software or personal vulnerabilities. If the software has not been updated, then it could have security flaws which the hacker could exploit. So we're looking now for our angle to get in to the company. The third step of penetration testing is gaining access. And once access is gained, all we have to do is change passwords so that we can get in undetected next time we need to enter a system. The point of this is you don't want to hang around unauthorized in the system because this risks being detected. We want to get in, set up a user account, change some passwords and get out as fast as possible. And that leads us into step 4. We need to maintain our access. So once the system has created backdoors, what I mean by a backdoor, it's an undocumented part of the system and it's used to maintain and upkeep the software of a system. And usually they're created by the person who created the software. Sometimes we have administrative backdoors and they're protected with hard-coded usernames and passwords, and they can't be changed. If we find out what they are, then we can get in and we can look like it's maintenance. And like I said, often the backdoor's existence is unknown to the system owner. It's only known by the software maker. Most of the time, hackers spend their time searching through the system to find out these hard-coded backdoors. But if we do indeed find one and we can get in and out, the last step is to clear our tracks. Getting caught during the hack could lead to a black or grey hat hacker getting a hefty jail term. Once a hacker has broken into the system, it will be up to them what they want to do next. They can copy documents, they can financially drain bank accounts, but more often than not, they'll install malicious software to help maintain their access or perform mischief that they had originally intended to do. And they're the 5 steps to penetration testing. Now, a hacker might employ a number of different malicious software types in order to help them do these steps, and we need to know these for our A-level. Things like viruses, trojans, spyware, scareware and ransomware, and even botnets. So let's do a quick recap of what these are. You might have heard of these before if you've done GCSE, but it's always good to refresh our memory. So a virus is software which will attempt to spread over the network by infecting emails, removable storage, devices, or even software vulnerabilities. And once a virus is in play, it will deliver one or more other pieces of software known as the payload. And the attack vector for a virus tends to be through emails or infected websites. Now, in each of these malicious software types, we always talk about its attack vector, and this is the method of how the virus actually penetrates your system. And next we've got a Trojan Horse, and this comes from the story of the Trojan war horse that the Greeks used in order to penetrate the city of Troy to win the war. Inside the Trojan horse were soldiers, and they give the horse to the city of Troy as a gift. They brought it into their city through the gates, and then once the gates were closed at night time, the soldiers got out, and you can probably imagine what happened next. And in computer science, these work in a similar way to our virus, only that they are hidden in files or programs. When opened, the Trojan is activated and delivers its payload. And this tricks users into downloading files or using illegal peer-to-peer networks is the common attack vector for the Trojan horse. Now moving on to spyware, this tracks key presses and software use, which is then sent back to the hacker. It's commonly used to commit identification fraud, and the spyware attack vector tends to be from other malicious software, such as a virus. We've seen some recent examples of scareware and ransomware, and this is software which will try and scare the user into buying fake or further malicious software. It will pop up messages suggesting that your system is compromised and only their software can fix the problem, at a price of course. Ransomware uses similar tactics but will delete, collect or encrypt files which they will ransom back to you. And ransomware can also take control of webcams, and scareware tends to be used on compromised websites, while ransomware tends to have an attack vector as the payload of a virus. And with the introduction of cryptocurrencies, it's becoming harder to track where these payments are going. And you might have heard of WannaCry that got into the NHS systems and started to cripple computers and attack the health service. Luckily enough, we found out how to stop it before it got too bad. And finally, we look at botnets. And these will create a backdoor to your computer, allowing a hacker to use it without your permission. The hacker will then use your computer as a part of a larger group of compromised computers to launch further attacks, normally a denial of service attack. And again, this tends to be the payload of the virus. And that's everything that we need to cover for the last part of our data security chapter. And if you've got any comments or questions about that chapter, feel free to email me or put it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.